Welcome to the Explainer. Let's just dive right into this because today we're exploring a truly fascinating hidden universe. We're talking about the microscopic world of blood types and the literally life or death impact they have on global healthcare. I mean, we all know blood is essential for life, right? But the complex biological systems flowing through our veins right now hold secrets that most of us never even think about.
So to kick things off, I want to pose a bit of a mystery to you. Have you ever heard of golden blood? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi novel, doesn't it? But it's actually very real. It's this extreme medical rarity, and the answer to this biological puzzle actually lies in understanding the tiny foundational building blocks in our own veins.
To get to the bottom of that mystery, we first need to build up a foundational understanding of what's actually happening at the microscopic level. So let's get into Section 1, Decoding Your Blood. Okay, the single most important concept to grasp when we talk about blood types is the antigen. Think of antigens as crucial biological ID tags. They're these little protein molecules that live right on the surface of your red blood cells. And these little ID tags are exactly what your immune system uses to scan and identify whether a substance actually belongs in your body or if it's some kind of dangerous foreign invader. Now, the other half of that internal security system relies on antibodies. If antigens are the ID tags on the red blood cells, antibodies are kind of like the security guards patrolling the blood plasma. Here's how they interact. If the antibodies in your plasma spot a red blood cell carrying an antigen ID tag that they just don't recognize, they will immediately attack it. And this strict defense mechanism is exactly why getting the wrong blood type can be absolutely catastrophic.
So how do we actually make sense of all these different ID tags? Let's move on to Section 2, the ABO and Rh systems.
Believe it or not, up until the year 1900, doctors incorrectly assumed that all human blood was exactly the same. And as you can imagine, that assumption led to a lot of tragic outcomes during early blood transfusions. But everything changed when an Austrian scientist named Karl Landsteiner discovered the ABO system. He literally mixed different blood types together, watched how the cells clumped up and realized, hey, there are distinct groups here. This breakthrough was such a massive game changer that he was actually awarded the Nobel Prize in 1930.
So, let's look at how Landsteiner's ABO system actually works. It's all about the presence or the complete absence of A and B antigens, which creates our four main blood groups. If you have type A blood, you've got A antigens and anti-B antibodies. Type B has B antigens and anti-A antibodies. Now, type AB is totally unique. It has both A and B antigens, but zero antibodies, making it this peaceful, welcoming environment for foreign blood. And type O? Well, it has absolutely no antigens on its surface, but it carries both anti-A and anti-B antibodies in the plasma.
But the ABO system isn't the whole story here. The second most important classification is the rhesus, or Rh system. This simply looks for a third antigen, called the Rh factor. If it's present on your red blood cells, you get a positive sign next to your blood type. If it's absent, you get a negative sign. It's really as simple as that.
Knowing all of this, how did doctors actually figure out your exact type safely and accurately in a clinical lab? Well, it's a three-step procedure. Step 1 is forward typing, where they mix your blood with specific antibodies just to see if it reacts. Step 2 is back typing, doing the exact reverse by mixing your blood serum with known type A and B cells. And finally, Step 3 is Rh typing to check for that positive or negative factor. It's a really rigorous system of double checks to ensure complete safety.
Let's shift our perspective for a minute here, stepping out of the laboratory and looking into your family tree. Section 3, the genetics of blood. How do you actually end up with your specific blood type?
It basically all comes down to Mendelian inheritance. You inherit one blood type gene from each parent, creating a genotype, which then results in your actual blood type or phenotype. The really crucial thing to understand here is that the A and B genes are what we call co-dominant. That means if you have one of each, they both show up, giving you type AB blood. The O gene, however, is recessive. Because of that, literally the only way you can have type O blood is if you inherit an O allele from both your mother and your father.
And what's absolutely fascinating is that the blood type you inherit doesn't just dictate your transfusions, it actually correlates with your susceptibility to certain diseases. Recent medical studies have highlighted some really surprising links. For instance, people with type O blood generally have an 11% lower risk of developing coronary heart disease. On the flip side, type A and B individuals have a significantly higher risk of developing blood clots like deep vein thrombosis. Type A has also been linked to a slightly higher risk of stomach cancer, while type O folks are more susceptible to stomach ulcers and severe cholera. It's just a vivid reminder of how deeply connected our genetics are to our overall health.
Now let's zoom out to the entire population level and reveal how these genetic combinations create some incredibly stark contrasts in our demographics. Section 4. The rarest blood types.
Blood type distribution is drastically uneven, especially when you look at the United States. O positive is the most abundant by a wide margin, found in roughly 37.4% of the population, and that's closely followed by A positive at 33.7%. But take a look all the way down at the other end of the spectrum. AB negative is extraordinarily scarce, found in just 0.6% of people. That is a tiny fraction of the population.
And we also have to remember that blood type prevalence isn't uniform across the board. It's heavily influenced by demographics and ethnicity. For example, while about 45% of Caucasians have type O blood, that number jumps to 51% for African Americans and 57% for Hispanics. This ethnic variation is exactly why maintaining a highly diverse donor pool is absolutely critical for a functioning global healthcare system. Patients really need blood that closely matches their own genetic background.
Which brings us right back to that mystery I posed at the very beginning of this explainer. What is golden blood? Well, the answer comes down to just one number, 50. There are fewer than 50 known cases worldwide.
That is 50 cases of Rh-null blood, widely referred to as golden blood. It is literally the rarest blood type on the planet. People with this type completely lack all Rh antigens on their red blood cells. Because it has 0 Rh-ID tags to trigger an immune response, it acts as a universal savior. It can be safely given to anyone within the ABO system. But here's the catch. It is an absolute nightmare for the patient who has it. If an Rh-null individual ever needs a blood transfusion themselves, finding a matching donor out of those 50 people spread across the globe requires massive, urgent international coordination.
Moving from the microscopically rare to the everyday reality of our hospitals, let's get into Section 5. Matching and transfusions. This is where we connect everything we've learned to the high-stakes world of life or death emergency medicine.
You often hear the term universal donor thrown around, but there are actually two types. The universal red cell donor is type O negative. Because their cells have absolutely no A, B, or Rh antigens, their blood won't trigger an immune attack in anyone. This makes O negative constantly in high demand for severe trauma cases where doctors simply do not have the time to check a patient's blood type. On the flip side of that, the universal plasma donor is type AB. Since their plasma has no antibodies to attack other blood cells, their plasma is universally safe for anyone to receive.
Now, the rules of transfusion are strictly bound by these biological realities. If a patient receives an inappropriate match, their immune system will attack the mismatched blood, causing a severe, often life-threatening transfusion reaction. And the Rh factor? It is totally unforgiving. An Rh-negative person must only receive Rh-negative blood. Otherwise, their body will immediately start building defenses against those positive antigens.
This strict rule is also a vital consideration during pregnancy. If an Rh-negative mother is carrying an Rh-positive fetus, it creates what's called Rh incompatibility. The mother's immune system can actually view the baby's red blood cells as a foreign threat and start attacking them. But thankfully, modern medicine is incredible. Doctors monitor for this very closely and can prevent the attack by treating the mother with Rh immunoglobulin, which completely stops those harmful antibodies from ever forming in the first place.
When we step back and look at all these complexities, it's pretty staggering to realize the sheer volume of need out there. As the American Red Cross notes, nearly 16 million blood components are transfused each year in the U.S. alone. This is a constant, ongoing demand. It highlights exactly why we need diverse, regular blood donations. Patients with complex conditions, like sickle cell disease, for example, rely heavily on donors from their own ethnic backgrounds to receive safe, recurring transfusions.
So, we've covered the fascinating science, the rare genetics, and the massive clinical impact of blood types. But I want to leave you with a provocative thought today, something highly personal. Do you actually know what blood type runs in your veins? If you don't, I highly encourage you to go find out. It's a remarkable piece of your biological identity, and discovering it just might inspire you to roll up your sleeve, become a donor, and maybe even save a life. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.